On Christmas Eve, billionaire CEO Marcus Oliveira's world crumbles after a devastating family argument sends him fleeing into the frozen dawn in his $400,000 Porsche GT3. When the luxury car mysteriously dies on an isolated road, a tiny 11-year-old street girl named Luna emerges from the darkness. Her small hands dirty with grease, but her eyes blazing with impossible intelligence. Desperate and trembling with cold, she offers a heartbreaking deal. Fix his car for Christmas dinner scraps. Marcus, consumed by cynicism, mockingly promises, "If you can make this machine work, little one, I swear I'll become your father." In exactly 21 seconds, Luna's small fingers work magic on the engine, leaving the billionaire stunned that a child outsmarted his engineers. But as he takes her to a luxury hotel, a star-shaped scar on her shoulder makes his blood freeze. The devastating truth hits like lightning. Luna is the daughter he abandoned when he left her pregnant mother 12 years ago. His sarcastic oath has just become the cruelest twist of fate, and now he must face the child whose life he destroyed. If you've ever experienced moments when your past decisions came back to haunt you, this story will touch your heart in ways you never imagined. Hit that like button. Share in the comments what was the most difficult moment of your life as a parent, and prepare yourself for a story that will change your perspective on family forever. The Porsche GT3's engine roared through the empty streets of downtown Chicago at 5:47 a.m. on Christmas Eve 2024. Marcus Oliveira gripped the steering wheel with white knuckles. His $3,000 Armani suit wrinkled from the violent argument that had just destroyed his family. At 45 years old, the tech billionaire had built an empire worth $2.8 billion. But tonight, he felt like the poorest man alive. "You're a monster, Marcus." His wife Rebecca's voice still echoed in his mind. "You chose money over your own family. Again." The words cut deeper than any business rival's betrayal ever could. Their 15-year marriage had ended with her throwing her wedding ring at his face, the platinum band leaving a small cut on his cheek that still stung. The city lights blurred past him as he pushed the 500-horsepower machine to its limits. Lakeshore Drive stretched ahead, empty and unforgiving in the pre-dawn darkness. Snow began to fall, each flake catching in his headlights like falling stars mocking his misery. He had missed his daughter Sarah's high school graduation for a board meeting in Tokyo. He had skipped their anniversary for a merger in London. And tonight, on Christmas Eve, he had chosen to review quarterly reports instead of decorating the tree with his family. "I don't even know who you are anymore," Rebecca had whispered before walking out with their 17-year-old daughter. "The man I married would never have become this cold stranger." The slam of the front door had felt like the final nail in his coffin. Marcus pressed harder on the accelerator, the speedometer climbing past 90 mph. The snow was getting heavier now, making the road treacherous. But he didn't care. Maybe if he drove fast enough, he could outrun the guilt that was eating him alive. Maybe he could escape the image of Sarah's disappointed face when he had told her he was too busy to help her prepare for her college applications. Suddenly, the engine made a strange clicking sound. The dashboard lights flickered ominously. "No, no, no," Marcus muttered, feeling the car losing power. The GT3, his prized possession that had never failed him, began to sputter and slow down despite his desperate pressing of the gas pedal. The car rolled to a stop on a desolate stretch of road near the industrial district, surrounded by abandoned warehouses and empty lots. The silence was deafening after the engine's roar. Marcus tried turning the key again and again, but nothing happened. The $400,000 machine sat dead in the falling snow, just like his life. He pulled out his phone to call for help, but there was no signal. The irony wasn't lost on him. The man who had revolutionized telecommunications couldn't make a simple phone call when he needed it most. The cold began seeping through the car's windows, and Marcus realized he was completely alone on the most important night of the year. That's when he heard it. A small sound in the darkness outside. Footsteps crunching through the snow, getting closer. Marcus peered through the frosted window and saw a tiny figure approaching his car. His heart raced, unsure whether to be afraid or hopeful. In this moment of complete vulnerability, a stranger was about to change his life forever. But he had no idea that this encounter would force him to confront the most painful chapter of his past, one he had buried so deep he'd almost convinced himself it never happened. The figure that emerged from the swirling snow looked like something out of a Dickens novel. A small girl, no more than 11 years old, approached his car with cautious steps. Her clothes were layers of mismatched fabric, an oversized coat that had seen better days, worn jeans with patches on the knees, and boots that were 2 sizes too big for her tiny feet. But it was her face that stopped Marcus cold. Despite the dirt smudges on her cheeks and the tangled brown hair escaping from a knitted cap, her eyes held an intelligence that seemed far too mature for her age. They were a striking shade of green, bright and alert despite the exhaustion that lined her young features. She carried a small toolbox that looked almost comically large in her delicate hands. "Mister, you need help?" Her voice was soft but clear, cutting through the wind. She stopped a few feet from his window, maintaining a safe distance but showing no fear. Marcus rolled down his window, cold air rushing into the car's warmth. Where did you come from, sweetheart? It's dangerous out here." The girl tilted her head, studying him with those unnaturally wise eyes. "I live nearby," she said simply, though Marcus could see nothing but empty buildings in every direction. "I heard your car making noise before it stopped. Engine trouble, right?" "I think so, but—" Marcus paused, looking at her toolbox. "You know about cars." A small smile played at the corners of her mouth. "I know about lots of things. My name's Luna." She shifted the toolbox to her other hand. "What's yours?" "Marcus." Something about her presence was both comforting and unsettling. "Luna, where are your parents? You shouldn't be out here alone, especially not on Christmas Eve." The smile faded from her face, replaced by a hardness that no child should possess. "Don't have parents, just me." And she looked at his car with a professional assessment that seemed impossible for someone her age. "This is a GT3, right? 2023 model? These have issues with the fuel sensor alignment when it's cold, especially after driving fast." Marcus stared at her in disbelief. "How do you know that?" "I read a lot." Luna stepped closer to the car. "I can fix it for you, but I need something in return." Here it comes, Marcus thought cynically. Money. Everyone always wanted money from him. "How much?" Luna's green eyes met his, and for a moment he saw something heartbreaking in them. A loneliness that mirrored his own, but wrapped in the devastating innocence of childhood. "I don't want money, mister. I want some Christmas dinner, just leftovers. I haven't eaten since yesterday morning." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. This tiny girl, with knowledge that could shame his team of engineers, was asking for table scraps. The contrast between his $400 car and her simple request for food made him feel smaller than he'd ever felt in his life. "You haven't eaten since yesterday." His voice came out rougher than intended. Luna shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. "Sometimes that happens. But if I fix your car, maybe you could share some food. I know it's Christmas Eve and all." "People usually have good food on Christmas Eve." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. This child was alone, hungry, and yet she was offering to help him. The successful businessman who had climbed over countless competitors to reach the top found himself humbled by an 11-year-old's quiet dignity. "If you can actually fix this car—" "Luna," he said, his voice thick with emotion he couldn't quite identify. "I'll buy you the biggest Christmas dinner you've ever seen." Luna's face lit up with a smile that transformed her entirely. For a moment, she looked like what she should be, a happy child on Christmas Eve. "Really? You promise?" "I promise." The words came easier than any business deal he'd ever made. But as Luna walked around to the front of his car, Marcus felt a strange chill that had nothing to do with the December wind. Something about her seemed familiar, though he couldn't place what. And when she looked back at him through the windshield, tools already in her small hands, he had the unsettling feeling that this chance encounter was anything but random. What he didn't know was that the universe was about to present him with a bill he'd been avoiding for over a decade, and the price would be higher than anything his billions could buy. Luna popped the hood of the Porsche with the confidence of a master mechanic. Steam rose from the engine bay, creating ghostly wisps in the cold air. Marcus watched through his windshield as the tiny girl disappeared behind the raised hood, only the sound of metal against metal indicating she was actually working. "This is insane," he muttered to himself, pulling his coat tighter. "I'm trusting a multi-million-dollar engine to a kid who probably hasn't even hit puberty." But something about Luna's demeanor had convinced him. The way she'd diagnosed the problem without even looking under the hood, the professional manner in which she'd assessed his car, it was unlike anything he'd ever encountered. In his business, he'd learned to read people quickly, and this child radiated competence despite her age and circumstances. "Found it!" Luna's voice called out from behind the hood. "Just like I thought. Your fuel sensor got knocked loose from all that aggressive driving. The computer can't read the fuel levels properly, so it shut down the engine as a safety measure." Marcus got out of the car, snow immediately soaking through his expensive leather shoes. He walked around to where Luna was working, and his breath caught in his throat. Her small hands moved with precision and purpose, adjusting components with a delicacy that his best technicians would envy. She had already removed a small electronic component and was examining it under a pocket flashlight. "Where did you learn to do this?" he asked, genuinely amazed. Luna didn't look up from her work. "Books, mostly. And watching. There's a junkyard about a mile from here where old Charlie used to let me practice on broken cars before he—" She trailed off, her voice becoming smaller. "Before he went away." "Went away?" "Died. Last month." She said it matter-of-factly, but Marcus could hear the pain she was trying to hide. "He was the closest thing to family I had. Taught me that understanding how things work gives you power over them. Said I had a gift." Marcus felt his throat tighten. This child had lost her caretaker, was living alone on the streets, and yet here she was helping a stranger on Christmas Eve. The contrast between her generosity and his own self-absorbed misery was staggering. "Luna, I—" "Got it!" She held up the small sensor, brushing off some corrosion with her finger. "Say this green stuff? That's what was blocking the connection. Just needs a quick cleaning and realignment." She grabbed a small wire brush from her toolbox and began working on the component with the focus of a surgeon. As she worked, Marcus found himself studying her profile. Something nagged at the back of his mind. A sense of familiarity that he couldn't shake. The shape of her nose, the determined set of her jaw when she concentrated. It reminded him of someone, but he couldn't place who. "There," Luna announced, reinstalling the sensor with quick, sure movements. "Try starting it now." Marcus slid back into the driver's seat, his heart pounding with anticipation and disbelief. He turned the key, and the GT3's engine roared to life immediately, purring with its usual perfection. The dashboard lit up normally, all systems showing green. He sat there for a moment, stunned. A homeless 11-year-old had just accomplished what would have taken his dealership's service department hours to diagnose and fix. He got back out of the car, where Luna was already packing up her tools with quiet efficiency. Luna, that was. Incredible. How did you do that so quickly? She shrugged, but he could see pride flickering in her green eyes. Like I said, I understand how things work. Machines make sense. They follow rules, fix the problem, and they work again. She paused, looking at him with an expression too wise for her years. People are harder. The simple statement hit Marcus like a revelation. Here was a child who had figured out mechanical engineering through sheer determination and necessity, yet she understood something about human nature that had taken him decades to learn, if he'd learned it at all. "Now about that Christmas dinner," Luna said, her voice trying to be casual but unable to hide her hunger and hope. "Absolutely." Marcus pulled out his wallet. "The finest restaurant in Chicago. Whatever you want." Luna's eyes widened at the thick stack of bills in his wallet, but then she shook her head. "I don't need fancy. Just real food. A real meal. Maybe we could go somewhere warm where I could sit down like a normal person." The request broke something inside Marcus. When was the last time he'd wanted something as simple as a warm meal and a place to sit? When had he lost sight of what really mattered? As they prepared to leave, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was changing him in ways he didn't yet understand. But he also couldn't escape the nagging sensation that there was something about Luna he was missing, something important hovering just beyond his conscious awareness. The truth would soon reveal itself, and when it did, it would shatter everything he thought he knew about his past, his choices, and himself. The Ritz-Carlton Chicago rose into the snowy sky like a beacon of warmth and luxury. Marcus pulled his Porsche into the valet stand, watching Luna's reaction as the uniformed attendants approached. Her eyes widened at the opulent lobby visible through the glass doors, but she didn't shrink back like he expected. Instead, she observed everything with the same analytical intelligence she'd shown with his car. "Sir, shall we park your vehicle?" The valet's professional smile faltered slightly when he noticed Luna, taking in her worn clothes and the contrast she made with Marcus's expensive attire. "Yes, and we'll be dining in the hotel restaurant," Marcus said firmly, placing a protective hand on Luna's shoulder. He could feel how thin she was beneath her oversized coat. "Please, treat my guest with the same respect you'd show anyone." Inside the lobby, the warmth enveloped them like an embrace. Luna's cheeks, red from the cold, began to return to a more normal color. Marcus noticed she walked with careful dignity, not gawking at the crystal chandeliers or marble floors, but clearly absorbing every detail. Her intelligence seemed to extend beyond mechanical aptitude to social observation. "Mr. Oliveira." The maître d' approached with practiced enthusiasm. "How wonderful to see you again. Your usual table?" "Actually, James, I'd like something more private tonight, somewhere quiet where my young friend and I can talk." James's eyebrows rose slightly at seeing Luna, but his professionalism never wavered. "Of course, sir. Right this way." They were seated in a corner booth with a view of the snow-covered Grant Park. Luna slid across the leather banquette, her small hands smoothing over the soft material, as if she'd never felt anything so luxurious. When the waiter brought menus, she opened hers and began reading with the same intense focus she'd shown while fixing his car. "Order anything you want," Marcus said. "Everything." Luna looked up from the menu, her green eyes serious. "I don't want to waste food, that's wrong, but I haven't had a real meal in a long time." "How long, Luna?" She was quiet for a moment, calculating. "Old Charlie used to share his meals with me, since he died. Maybe I've had 3 real meals in the past month. Mostly I find things people throw away. Or I trade small repairs for sandwiches." Marcus felt his chest constrict. While he'd been worried about quarterly profits and stock prices, this brilliant child had been surviving on garbage and charity. "That's going to change starting now." Luna tilted her head, studying him with that unnerving directness. "Why are you being so nice to me?" "I mean, I helped you, but people don't usually." She gestured around the elegant restaurant. "This is way more than leftovers." Marcus leaned back, considering the question. Why was he doing this? It went beyond gratitude for fixing his car. Something about Luna called to him, awakened something in him that had been dormant for years. Maybe because you reminded me what real problems looked like, he said honestly. I was driving around feeling sorry for myself because my family is angry with me, and then I meet you. You've lost everyone, you're living on the streets, and yet you still helped a stranger. You put my problems in perspective. Luna nodded slowly. What did you do to make your family angry? The directness of the question caught him off guard. Adults would have danced around the topic, but Luna simply asked what she wanted to know. I worked too much, missed too many important moments, put business before people I love. Do you love them? Yes, he said without hesitation. More than anything. Then why did you choose work instead? Marcus stared at her, struck by the simple logic of the question. I thought I was providing for them, building something for their future. But they wanted you present, not money. It wasn't a question. Somehow, this 11-year-old had cut straight to the heart of his 15-year marriage's failure in one sentence. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. Yes, they wanted me present. Luna was quiet while the waiter brought their food. Prime rib for her, soup for him, since he'd lost his appetite thinking about his family. She ate with careful precision, savoring each bite like it might be her last. Watching her, Marcus realized he couldn't remember the last time he'd truly appreciated a meal, or anything else for that matter. Marcus, Luna said after a while, if you love them, why don't you go back and tell them that? Tell them you choose them over work? It might be too late. I've hurt them too many times. Luna set down her fork and looked at him with those two wise eyes. Old Charlie used to say that it's only too late when you're dead. Everything else can be fixed if you're willing to do the work. As she spoke, something flickered in Marcus's memory. That phrase, those exact words, he'd heard them before, long ago. A woman with green eyes like Luna's had said something similar to him once, in a different context, but the memory was frustratingly vague. Luna, he said carefully, what's your last name? She hesitated, the first time she'd shown any uncertainty all evening. I don't really use one, just Luna, but you must have been born with one. Your parents? I told you, I don't have parents. Her voice became guarded, walls going up behind her eyes. Marcus felt he was approaching something important, something that might explain the strange familiarity he felt around her. But before he could push further, Luna changed the subject. Can I ask you something? She said. Why were you driving so fast when your car broke down? Were you running away from something? The question hit too close to home. Yes, he had been running away from his failures, his guilt, his inability to be the man his family needed. But looking at Luna, seeing her courage in the face of impossible circumstances, he realized running solved nothing. What he didn't realize was that the person he was running from had just found him, and the truth was sitting across from him, eating prime rib with the delicate manners of a child who had learned to be grateful for every kindness. After dinner, Marcus insisted on getting Luna a room at the hotel. She protested weakly, but exhaustion was evident in the way her small shoulders sagged. As they stood at the front desk, Marcus found himself studying her profile again, that nagging sense of familiarity growing stronger. I'll need identification for the young lady, the desk clerk said professionally. Luna stiffened. I don't have any ID. Marcus sensed there was more to this than simple bureaucracy. She's he paused, the words, my guest, seeming inadequate. Something deeper was stirring in him, a protective instinct he hadn't felt since Sarah was small. She's family. Put the room under my name. As they rode the elevator to the 15th floor, Luna seemed to shrink into herself, The confident little mechanic was gone, replaced by a vulnerable child who looked overwhelmed by the luxury surrounding her. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked gently. "I'm not used to kindness," she admitted quietly. "People usually want something, or they ignore me completely. You're different." "Maybe we both are." They reached her room, a junior suite with a view of the lake. Luna walked to the window, pressing her face against the cold glass to look out at the snow-covered city. In the reflection, Marcus caught sight of her profile again, and this time the memory hit him with startling clarity. 12 years ago, a conference in Detroit. A brilliant young engineer named Elena Rodriguez, who had challenged his company's environmental policies with passion and intelligence. She had those same green eyes, that same determined set to her jaw when she was thinking. They had spent one intense weekend together, talking about technology and the future, sharing ideas and something deeper. "Luna," he said, his voice hoarse, "how old are you exactly?" She turned from the window. 11. I'll be 12 in February." February. The timing was right. Marcus felt the room start to spin. "What's your birthday?" "February 14th. Valentine's Day. Romantic, right?" She said it with bitter irony too mature for her age. Marcus sank into a chair, his mind racing. 12 years ago, minus 9 months for pregnancy. The dates aligned perfectly. Elena had tried to contact him after Detroit, but he'd been in the middle of a major acquisition, consumed with work as always. He'd ignored her calls, then forgotten about her entirely as new deals and challenges consumed his attention. "Luna, your mother, what was her name?" The girl's face closed off completely. "I don't want to talk about her. Please, this is important." "Why?" Luna's voice became sharp, defensive. "What does it matter now? She's dead. Just like everyone else who was supposed to take care of me." "She's dead?" Marcus felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. "Car accident when I was 7. Drunk driver hit her on her way home from work." Luna's voice was matter-of-fact, but her hands were shaking. She was working 3 jobs trying to keep us afloat. "Always said my father was some rich guy who didn't want us." The words hit Marcus like physical blows. Elena had been raising their daughter alone, working multiple jobs, struggling to survive while he lived in luxury, completely unaware of their existence. The guilt was overwhelming. But underneath it was something else, a desperate need to know for certain. "Luna, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Did your mother ever mention your father's name? Why does it matter?" But something in his voice must have gotten through to her, because she studied his face intently. "She said his name was Marcus, said he was brilliant but cold, said he cared more about money than people." Her green eyes narrowed. "Marcus isn't exactly a rare name, though." Marcus felt the world tilt on its axis. Did she? Did she have any birthmarks or scars, something distinctive? Luna's face went very still. She had a star-shaped scar on her shoulder from when she was a kid and fell off her bike. She paused, then slowly pulled down the collar of her shirt, revealing the top of her own left shoulder. "I have one too. Same place. Doctors said it was genetic, something about how the skin formed." Marcus stopped breathing. There, on Luna's small shoulder, was an identical star-shaped mark. The same unusual genetic quirk Eleanor had shown him during their weekend together, laughing about how it looked like someone had branded her with a tiny constellation. The truth crashed over him like a tsunami. This brilliant, brave, homeless little girl was his daughter. The child he'd abandoned without even knowing she existed. The daughter who had grown up poor and alone while he built his empire, who had learned to survive on the streets while he lived in penthouse luxury. "Oh, God," he whispered, tears streaming down his face. "Luna, I think I'm your father." Luna stared at him for a long moment, her face unreadable. Then quietly she said, "I know." "You know?" I've known since I saw your car's registration when I was fixing it. Marcus Oliveira. My mom kept newspaper clippings about you, said you were my father but that you didn't want me. Her voice was steady, but her hands were trembling. I wasn't sure if I should tell you. Figured you'd just leave like you did before. Marcus fell to his knees in front of her, this tiny girl who carried his DNA and apparently his brain for mechanics. Luna, I didn't know. I swear to you, I didn't know you existed. If I had known. Would it have mattered, she asked, and the pain in her voice nearly broke him. Or would you have been too busy with work to care about us too? The question hung in the air between them, and Marcus realized that his entire life, every choice he'd made, every priority he'd set, had led to this moment. His daughter, brilliant and broken, looking at him with the same disappointment he'd seen in his wife's eyes hours earlier. But this time, he had a chance to choose differently. This time, he could prove that love was more important than money, that family mattered more than success. The only question was whether it was too late to become the father Luna had needed all along. Marcus knelt before his daughter in the luxury hotel room, both of them surrounded by wealth that felt meaningless in the face of the 11 years of her life he'd missed. Luna stood perfectly still, her green eyes, so much like Elena's, watching him with a mixture of hope and wariness that broke his heart. You're right to question whether I would have been different, he said, his voice thick with emotion. 12 years ago, I probably would have seen you and your mother as a complication to manage. I was selfish, driven only by success and money. But Luna, he reached out tentatively, and when she didn't pull away, he gently took her small hands in his. Meeting you tonight, seeing your brilliance, your courage, your kindness despite everything you've endured, you've changed me in ways I didn't think were possible. Luna's composure cracked slightly. Easy words to say. You're right. Words are cheap. Marcus stood up, pulling out his phone. Actions matter. He speed-dialed his assistant. Sarah, I know it's Christmas Eve, but I need you to cancel everything on my calendar for the next month. Everything. The board meetings, the merger discussions, the Tokyo trip, all of it. Luna watched him with growing amazement as he continued. And I need you to contact the best family lawyers in Chicago. First thing tomorrow morning, I want to start adoption proceedings. Yes. I know it's Christmas. No, this can't wait. Sarah, I just found my daughter. He hung up and looked at Luna. I'm not asking you to trust me immediately. I haven't earned that, but I'm asking you to let me try to earn it. Let me try to become the father you deserved to have all along. Luna was quiet for a long moment, studying his face with that analytical intelligence that reminded him painfully of Elena. What about your other family? Your wife and daughter who are angry with you? Marcus felt another piece of his heart break. I need to fix that too. I need to become a better man all around. But Luna, you're not competing with them for my attention. You're not a problem to be solved or managed around my other responsibilities. You're my daughter, and you deserved better from me from the day you were born. I don't need a father now, Luna said quietly. But Marcus could hear the longing beneath her defensive words. I've learned to take care of myself. I know you have. You're the strongest, smartest person I've ever met. But you shouldn't have had to learn that. No child should have to survive on the streets, fix cars for food, or go days without eating. He sat on the edge of the bed, bringing himself closer to her eye level. I can't change the past, Luna. I can't bring your mother back, or give you the childhood you should have had, but I can make sure your future is everything it should be. Luna walked to the window again, looking out at the snow-covered city where she'd been surviving alone. What if I disappoint you? What if I'm not the kind of daughter you want? Luna. Marcus's voice was fierce with certainty. Tonight you diagnosed and fixed a problem that would have stumped trained engineers. You showed more wisdom about family and love than I've learned in 45 years. You offered kindness to a stranger when you had every reason to be bitter and angry at the world. You could never disappoint me. If anything, I'm terrified that I'll disappoint you." She turned back to him, tears finally spilling over. "I used to dream about meeting you. When I was little, before Mom died, I used to imagine you'd come find us, and we'd be a real family. Then when she died and nobody came," she wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, "I decided you must not want me." Marcus crossed the room and for the first time pulled his daughter into his arms. She was so small, so fragile, yet she'd survived things that would break most adults. "I want you, Luna. I want to know everything about you. I want to hear about your mother, about old Charlie, about how you learned to fix cars. I want to make up for every birthday I missed, every nightmare I wasn't there to chase away, every moment you felt alone in this world." Luna melted into his embrace, 11 years of stored-up longing breaking free. "Can I really stay with you? Is this real?" "This is real. You're my daughter and I'm never letting you go again." He held her tighter, making a silent promise to Elena's memory and to the brave little girl in his arms. "Tomorrow, we start building the life you should have always had." As Luna finally relaxed against him, Marcus realized that this Christmas Eve had given him the greatest gift of his life, not just his daughter, but the chance to become the man she needed him to be. The successful businessman who had conquered industries and accumulated billions had just been conquered by an 11-year-old girl with green eyes and a toolbox. But as they held each other in the warm hotel room, neither of them knew that the real challenges lay ahead. Blending Luna into his world wouldn't be simple, and the past had a way of complicating even the most heartfelt new beginnings. The question now was whether their newly forged bond would be strong enough to weather the storms that were coming. For tonight, though, it was enough that they had found each other, father and daughter. Reunited on Christmas Eve, both of them finally coming home. 07, Christmas morning dawned crisp over Chicago. Marcus woke on the hotel couch, watching Luna sleep peacefully for the first time since he'd met her. His phone buzzed with Rebecca's bitter text. "Sarah's asking where you are. I told her you're probably at the office. Merry Christmas." "Marcus." The words strengthened his resolve. He was going to fix this, all of it. Luna stirred, momentarily confused, before reality settled in. "It wasn't a dream," she said softly. "No dream. Good morning, sweetheart." The endearment came naturally. Luna smiled genuinely for the first time. "I haven't woken up in a real bed since Mum died. This feels like flying. From now on, you'll wake up in a real bed every day, I promise." Over room service breakfast, Luna grew nervous about reality setting in. What happens now? You have a life, a family, a business. Where do I fit in all that? "You fit at the center of it all, Luna. You're my daughter. Everything else gets arranged around that fact. But your wife and other daughter don't know I exist. How will they react to me suddenly showing up?" Marcus considered the challenge ahead. "They'll be shocked. Rebecca will be angry. At me, not you. Sarah might see you as competition for my attention." Luna nodded with mature understanding. "They'd be right to be angry. You hid me from them for 11 years, even unknowingly. From their perspective, you kept a huge secret." "How are you so wise about this?" Marcus asked, amazed by her emotional intelligence. "When you're invisible, you learn to watch. You see how families work, break and hurt each other." Luna met his eyes. "I want to meet them, but I don't want to destroy what you have with them." "No." Marcus's voice was firm. "No more secrets, no compartmentalizing. I've spent years keeping parts of my world separate, and it's made me unrecognizable. You're my daughter, they're my family. We figure out how to make it work together." Luna studied his face and nodded slowly. "Okay, but when they get angry, and they will, remember you chose this. You chose me. Don't let their anger make you change your mind." The vulnerability in her voice broke his heart. This child still expected abandonment despite his promises. "Luna Rose Rodriguez Oliveira," he said, using her hoped-for future name. "I've made many mistakes, but choosing you will never be one of them. Not ever." For the first time, Luna looked like the 11-year-old she was, hopeful, trusting, finally believing she'd found her safe harbor. As Marcus reached for his phone to call Rebecca, they both knew the hardest conversations of their lives were about to begin. The drive to Marcus's Lincoln Park mansion felt like traveling to another planet for Luna. She pressed her face to the Porsche's window, watching neighborhoods transform from urban density to tree-lined streets with palace-like houses. When they reached the circular driveway of the 3-story Georgian revival home, Luna went quiet. "It's beautiful," she whispered, taking in snow-covered gardens, impressive stone facade, and a 3-car garage larger than some apartments. "It's been empty of happiness for a long time," Marcus admitted. "Maybe you can help change that." Rebecca's BMW was in the driveway. Marcus had called ahead, asking for 30 minutes to explain everything. Rebecca had agreed, her voice cold but curious. Walking up the front steps, Luna reached for Marcus's hand. Her fingers were ice-cold despite gloves. This brilliant child who'd faced homelessness with courage was terrified of meeting his family. "Remember," he squeezed her hand, "you belong here. You're my daughter, which makes this your home too." Rebecca opened the door before they could knock. Still beautiful at 42, auburn hair in a severe ponytail, dressed casually but with rigid posture, radiating controlled anger. Her eyes immediately assessed Luna. "So this is your explanation for disappearing last night," Rebecca said carefully. "You found a child." "Rebecca, this is Luna. She's my daughter." The silence was deafening. Rebecca's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, anger, and finally cold fury Marcus had never seen. "Your daughter. You have another daughter. I didn't know she existed until last night. Her mother was Elena Rodriguez, an engineer I met 12 years ago. Elena died 4 years ago, and Luna's been living on the streets." "Sarah!" Rebecca called upstairs, never breaking eye contact with Marcus. "Come down here, now!" Sarah thundered downstairs, 17, tall and athletic like her mother, with Marcus's dark hair and determined chin. She stopped short, seeing Luna. "Dad, who's this?" In the living room, beside the undecorated Christmas tree, symbolizing his failures. Marcus explained everything. Sarah stared between Luna and Marcus, processing. Rebecca looked ready to explode. "So while I struggled with postpartum depression after Sarah's birth, you were with another woman," Rebecca said icily. "It wasn't an affair. We weren't married when I met Elena. We were engaged. But you were sleeping with other people and never mentioned this Elena?" Luna spoke clearly. "He didn't know about me. My mom tried calling when she found out she was pregnant, but he was busy with some business deal. She gave up after a few tries." Sarah studied Luna intently. "Mom, look at her. She looks exactly like Dad when he's thinking hard. Same expression, same head tilt, and she's been living on the streets. That must have been terrifying." "I learned to take care of myself," Luna replied. "I bet you did. You look tough." Sarah sat beside Luna. "Dad, you really didn't know?" "I swear, Sarah, if I had known, I would have brought her home immediately." Sarah nodded, then looked at Rebecca. "Mom, I know you're angry at Dad. I am too, but this isn't Luna's fault. She's my sister." The simple statement hung in the air. Rebecca's anger remained, but underneath Marcus glimpsed the compassion that had made him fall in love with her. "You're right," Rebecca said quietly. "This isn't Luna's fault." She looked directly at Luna. "I'm sorry you heard us fight. This is about your father's choices, not you." "I understand. I'm sorry I'm causing problems." "You're not causing anything. Your father causes problems. You're just a little girl who deserves better." as tensions slightly eased. Marcus realized this was just the beginning. The hardest part wouldn't be explaining Luna's existence. It would be blending their broken family, earning forgiveness, and becoming the father all his children deserved. But watching Sarah take Luna's hand, seeing Rebecca's maternal instincts override anger, he began hoping love could be stronger than past mistakes. 3 weeks after Christmas, Marcus's life had transformed completely. Luna had moved into the mansion's guest suite, hastily converted into a bedroom for a brilliant 11-year-old. The room now held mechanical engineering books alongside novels, a workbench for electronics, and stuffed animals Sarah had insisted on buying. Legal adoption proceedings moved forward, though the social worker raised eyebrows at the unusual circumstances. "Mr. Oliveira," Mrs. Patterson had said, "it's rare to see voluntary intensive background checks when the child is already biologically yours. I want everything legal and proper," Marcus replied. "Luna has been failed by too many systems. This time, everything gets done right." This morning, Marcus watched Luna through his office window as she worked on an old motorcycle with Tom, their groundskeeper. Tom had been skeptical initially, but was now singing her praises. "That girl's got magic hands, Mr. O," Tom reported. "Fixed the riding mower in 10 minutes. Been broken for months." Sarah entered carrying coffee. "For someone who used to spend 18 hours daily at the office, you're home a lot lately." "I have more important things now." Sarah studied his face. "You look different, Dad. Happier, even with all the divorce drama." Marcus considered his words. "I spent years thinking success meant building bigger, making more money, conquering challenges, but Luna taught me what real success looks like." "She's incredible," Sarah agreed. "Yesterday she fixed my flickering laptop screen, diagnosed it in 30 seconds. She paused. "Dad, can I ask something?" "Anything." "Are you doing this from guilt, or because you really want to be her father?" The blunt question was typical Sarah, direct like him. "Both," he answered honestly. "I feel tremendous guilt about missed years, Elena struggling alone, Luna being homeless, but guilt doesn't make you rearrange your entire life. Love does that. You love her. Desperately. She's brilliant, brave, and kind despite everything. She makes me want to be the man she deserves as a father." Sarah smiled. "Good answer." She stood, then turned back. "Oh, and Dad? Mom's been asking about you." "What kind of asking?" "The kind where she pretends it's casual conversation, but really wants to know if you're seeing anyone, how you're handling Luna, whether you're actually following through on promises to change." Sarah grinned. "I think she's impressed you cancelled the Tokyo merger for Luna's first Dr. Henderson appointment." Dr. Henderson was the child psychologist helping Luna process trauma and adjust. Marcus had indeed cancelled a $2.8 billion merger to attend, shocking everyone, including himself. His phone rang, Dr. Henderson's office. "Mr. Oliveira, I wanted to discuss Luna's progress." Marcus tensed. "Is everything all right?" "More than all right. Luna is remarkable. Her resilience, emotional intelligence, adaptability. I've rarely seen anything like it. But there's something else." "What?" "She's testing off the charts intellectually, dramatically off the charts. Her IQ is 99.9th percentile. Her mechanical aptitude scores are literally higher than the test measures." Pride swelled in Marcus's chest. "What does that mean for education?" "She needs challenges matching her abilities. Regular school won't suffice. MIT has programs for exceptionally gifted children." "Whatever she needs," Marcus said immediately. "Money is no object. I want her to have every opportunity." "There's something else. Luna shows signs of gifted trauma, psychological impact of intellectual superiority while being powerless due to age and circumstances. She's learned to hide her intelligence to survive." Marcus thought about Luna's instant car diagnosis, her family wisdom, Her careful observation. She's been dumbing herself down. Exactly. But in your home, with your support, she's beginning to show her true self. It's beautiful to watch. After hanging up, Marcus sat thinking about the girl in his garage who had survived everything while harboring genius-level intellect. She had fixed his car, but also fixed something in him he hadn't realized was broken. His office door burst open. Luna rushed in, hands dirty with motor oil, face glowing with excitement. "Marcus! Tom showed me your old Mustang engine, and I think I can get it running. The compression is wrong, but if we rebuild cylinder heads and replace the timing chain—" She stopped, suddenly self-conscious. "Sorry, I got excited." "Don't ever apologize for being excited about something you love," Marcus said, pulling her into a hug despite motor oil. "Tell me everything." As Luna launched into detailed internal combustion explanations that would impress his automotive engineers, Marcus realized this was happiness. Not adrenaline from closing deals or satisfaction from beating competitors, but simple joy watching his daughter's eyes light up, sharing her passion. He had found his daughter, but more importantly, he had found himself. The question was whether he could hold on to both when real tests began. 2 months after Christmas, the fragile peace Marcus had built with his family shattered in the worst possible way. It started with a phone call at 6:43 a.m. that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Mr. Oliveira." The voice was unfamiliar, professional. "This is Detective Martinez with Chicago PD. We have your daughter here at the station." Marcus's blood turned to ice. "Sarah, what happened? Is she hurt?" "Not Sarah, sir. Luna. She's not hurt, but she's been arrested." "Arrested?" Marcus was already reaching for his clothes. "For what?" "Breaking and entering, sir, and theft." The drive to the police station felt like the longest 20 minutes of Marcus's life. Luna arrested? It was impossible. She had been thriving, excelling in her advanced tutoring program, building relationships with Sarah and slowly warming up to Rebecca. What could have possibly gone wrong? At the station, Marcus found Luna sitting in a juvenile holding area, looking smaller than ever, in clothes that were too big for her. When she saw him, she didn't run to him like he expected. Instead, she looked away, shame written all over her face. "Luna, sweetheart, what happened?" "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry, Marcus." Detective Martinez appeared with a folder. "Mr. Oliveira, I'm Detective Martinez. We need to talk." In the detective's office, Marcus learned the devastating details. Luna had been caught breaking into an abandoned warehouse on the south side of Chicago at 3 a.m. She had stolen food, blankets, and medical supplies. "But she has everything she needs at home," Marcus protested. "She has her own room, more food than she can eat, medical insurance, everything." "That's what makes this interesting," Detective Martinez said, "because she wasn't stealing for herself." The truth came out slowly, painfully. Luna had been sneaking out at night to help other homeless children. She had discovered a group of kids living in the abandoned warehouse, runaways, throwaways, children aged 8 to 16 who had no one and nowhere to go. "She's been bringing them food from your kitchen," the detective explained, "blankets from your linen closet. When one of them got sick last week, she stole antibiotics from a pharmacy. That's what led us to her." Marcus felt his world tilt. "She's been helping other children. For weeks, apparently. The kids we found call her Angel. They said she fixes things for them, brings them supplies, teaches the younger ones to read." Detective Martinez leaned forward. "Mr. Oliveira, your daughter has been running a one-person rescue operation for homeless children." When Marcus was finally allowed to see Luna again, she looked up at him with tears streaming down her face. "I know you're going to send me away now," she said quietly. "I know you're disappointed in me." Marcus knelt down in front of her chair. "Luna, why didn't you tell me about the other children?" "Because I thought you'd say it was too dangerous, or too expensive, or that it wasn't our problem. Her voice broke. But Marcus, there's a little boy there who's only 8 years old. 8. And a girl who reminds me of myself when Mum first died. I couldn't just ignore them, so you decided to help them yourself. I had to. I know what it's like to be that hungry, that scared, that alone. I couldn't live in your big warm house and eat your food and sleep in a soft bed knowing they were out there freezing. Marcus felt tears stinging his eyes. His daughter, his brilliant, compassionate daughter, had been carrying the weight of other children's suffering on her 11-year-old shoulders. Luna, you should have told me. We could have helped them together. Really? Hope flickered in her green eyes. You would have helped them. Sweetheart, if something matters to you, it matters to me. If you wanted to help those children, we would have found a way to help them safely and legally. Luna stared at him. You're not angry? I'm angry that you put yourself in danger. I'm angry that you felt you had to carry this burden alone. But I'm not angry about your compassion. Marcus took her hands. I'm proud of your heart, Luna. I just wish you trusted me enough to share it with me. I was scared you'd think I was too much trouble, that you'd decide I wasn't worth keeping. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. After 2 months in his home, Luna still expected to be abandoned, still believed that her love came with conditions. Luna, look at me. He waited until her eyes met his. There is nothing you could do that would make me stop loving you. Nothing. You are not a burden, you are not too much trouble, and you are definitely worth keeping. You're my daughter, and that means forever. Detective Martinez returned with paperwork. Mr. Oliveira, given Luna's age and the circumstances, we're releasing her into your custody, but there will be a hearing next week. As they left the police station, Luna walking close beside him, Marcus made a decision that would change everything. Luna, I want to see the warehouse. I want to meet these children. Really? Really. And then we're going to figure out how to help them properly. Together. The drive to the south side of Chicago took them through neighborhoods Marcus rarely saw. Areas where poverty and neglect had created invisible children that society had forgotten. But Luna hadn't forgotten them. His daughter, who had every reason to focus only on her own recovery and happiness, had instead chosen to reach back and help others still trapped in the darkness she'd escaped. As they pulled up to the abandoned warehouse, Marcus realized that he was about to meet the reason why Luna had risked everything. And he suspected that what he found there would challenge him in ways he'd never imagined. But for the first time since becoming a father to Luna, he felt completely certain about what kind of man he wanted to be, the kind who would move heaven and earth to protect not just his own daughter, but all the children she had taken under her wing. The question was whether he was strong enough to become that man, and whether the world would let him try. The abandoned warehouse looked like a scene from a post-apocalyptic movie. Broken windows, graffiti-covered walls, and weeds growing through cracks in the concrete. But as Marcus and Luna approached the building, he began to notice signs of life, a small cooking fire in a protected alcove, clothes hanging on makeshift lines, and the sound of young voices echoing from inside. They'll be scared when they see you, Luna warned as they reached the entrance. Adults usually mean trouble for them. Luna called out softly, "It's me. It's Angel. I brought someone to help." Slowly, children began to emerge from the shadows. Marcus's heart nearly stopped as he took in their faces, so young, so wary, so obviously hungry and cold, despite Luna's efforts to help them. There was Tommy, the 8-year-old Luna had mentioned, with hollow cheeks and eyes too old for his age. Maria, maybe 13, holding a baby that couldn't have been more than 2 years old. Several teenagers who looked like they'd been living rough for months or years. "This is my father," Luna announced. "His name is Marcus, and he wants to help." The children eyed Marcus suspiciously. He was clearly out of place in his expensive coat and polished shoes, but Luna's endorsement carried weight with them. "Angel got arrested because of us," said one of the older boys, maybe 16. "The cops were watching the pharmacy." "That's not your fault," Marcus said gently. "That's on me for not knowing what Luna was trying to do." "You're not going to call CPS, are you?" asked Maria, clutching the baby tighter. "They'll split us up." "Tommy and Lily are like my own kids now." Marcus looked around at the group, maybe 12 children in total, ranging from toddlers to teenagers. Each one had a story, a reason they were here, instead of in the system or with family. Each one had found a fragile safety in this unlikely family they'd created together. "How long have you all been living here?" Marcus asked. 6 months for me and Lily," Maria answered. "Tommy's been here longest, almost a year. The others come and go." "And Luna's been helping you for how long?" 5 weeks, said Tommy, in a voice barely above a whisper. "She brought us soup when I was sick, fixed our heater when it broke, taught me to read better." Marcus felt his chest tighten. While he'd been proud of Luna's progress in therapy and tutoring, she'd been carrying the weight of 12 other children's survival. "Listen," Marcus said, crouching down to be at eye level with the smaller children. "I'm not going to call anyone or force you to do anything. But I want to help, really help, not just with food and blankets, but with finding you safe places to live, getting you back in school, making sure you have what you need." "Why?" asked one of the teenagers suspiciously. "What's in it for you?" Luna answered before Marcus could. "Because he's good people. And because he knows what it's like to lose family and make mistakes." Over the next hour, Marcus listened to their stories. Tommy's parents had died in a car accident, and he'd run away from an abusive foster home. Maria had aged out of the system at 18, but refused to abandon her younger siblings when their foster family only wanted to keep the baby. The teenagers had various stories of family breakdown, abuse, and system failures. "Here's what we're going to do," Marcus finally said. "I'm going to call some people I know, good people who work with children. We're going to find temporary housing for all of you tonight, somewhere warm and safe. Then we're going to work on permanent solutions." "Together?" asked Luna. "Together," Marcus confirmed. "No one gets split up who doesn't want to be. No one goes anywhere they don't feel safe." It took 6 hours and dozens of phone calls, but by evening, Marcus had managed something he'd never thought possible. Using his connections, his resources, and his growing understanding of how to leverage wealth for good instead of just profit, he'd found temporary placements for all 12 children. Tommy and 2 other younger children went to a specialized group home that focused on trauma recovery. Maria and the baby were placed with a foster family who had experience with teen mothers. The older teenagers were connected with transitional housing programs that would help them develop independent living skills. But the real victory came when each child was given Marcus's personal phone number and a promise that this wasn't goodbye. "You're all Luna's family," he told them, as they prepared to leave the warehouse for the last time. "That makes you my family too. We'll see each other every week. And if anyone ever needs anything at all, you call me immediately." As they watched the last van drive away with Tommy waving through the rear window, Luna turned to Marcus with tears in her eyes. "You really did it. You really helped them." "We did it, Luna, and this is just the beginning." Marcus put his arm around his daughter. "I think it's time we started a foundation, something focused on helping children who fall through the cracks of the system." "Really? Really? And I think the first thing we should do is buy this warehouse and turn it into a proper youth center, a place where kids like Tommy can come when they need help, but also where they can learn skills, get tutoring, and know they're not alone." Luna stared at him in amazement. "You do that?" "Luna, 3 months ago I thought success meant accumulating wealth. You've taught me that real success means using what you have to make other people's lives better." Marcus looked back at the warehouse that had housed so much pain, but also so much love. These children found each other and created a family from nothing. The least we can do is give them the tools to thrive. As they drove home through the city lights, Marcus realized that Luna hadn't just saved those children. She'd saved him too. She'd shown him what it meant to love beyond yourself, to take responsibility for more than just your own happiness. But their biggest test was still ahead. Tomorrow, they would face the family court hearing that would determine Luna's future, and Marcus would have to prove to a judge that a man who had once put business before everything else could truly change. The question was whether 3 months of transformation would be enough to convince the court that Luna belonged with him, and whether his past mistakes would destroy the future they were trying to build together. The Cook County Family Court building stood imposing against the grey March sky, its limestone facade weathered by decades of Chicago winters and the weight of countless family tragedies played out within its walls. Marcus adjusted his tie for the 3rd time as he and Luna climbed the steps, his stomach churning with a nervousness he hadn't felt since his first major business presentation 20 years ago. "You look like you're going to throw up," Luna observed, her own nervousness hidden behind practical concern. "Deep breaths, Marcus. Remember what Dr. Henderson taught us about managing anxiety." Marcus almost smiled despite his fear. Here was his 11-year-old daughter coaching him through his panic, using techniques from her therapy sessions. In the 3 months since Christmas Eve, she had gone from a street-smart survivor to a child who was learning to trust, to heal, and to believe in permanent love. "I just keep thinking about what happens if the judge decides I'm not fit to be your father," Marcus admitted as they reached the courthouse doors. Luna stopped walking and looked up at him with those wise green eyes that had seen too much, but somehow still held hope. "Marcus, you are my father. No judge can change that. And you've already proven you're fit by choosing me every single day for 3 months. Inside the courtroom, Marcus felt the weight of everyone's attention. Rebecca sat in the gallery with Sarah, both of them having come to support Luna despite the ongoing divorce proceedings. Dr. Henderson was there to testify about Luna's progress. The social worker, Mrs. Patterson, sat with a thick file documenting her investigation into Marcus's fitness as a parent. Judge Patricia Reyes, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and kind but sharp eyes, called the hearing to order. "We're here today to determine the permanent custody and adoption of Luna Rodriguez by Marcus Oliveira, her biological father. This is an unusual case, given that Mr. Oliveira was unaware of the child's existence until recently." The next hour felt like the longest of Marcus's life. Mrs. Patterson testified about her investigation, describing Marcus's complete transformation from workaholic CEO to devoted father. Dr. Henderson spoke about Luna's remarkable recovery from trauma and her strong attachment to Marcus. "Your Honor," Dr. Henderson said, "in my 20 years of practice, I've rarely seen such a dramatic positive change in a child's well-being. Luna has gone from a survival mindset to genuine thriving, and the primary factor has been Mr. Oliveira's consistent, unconditional love and support." But then came the challenge Marcus had been dreading. The court-appointed attorney representing Luna's interests stood up. "Your Honor, while no one questions Mr. Oliveira's good intentions or his love for Luna, we must consider his track record. This is a man whose previous marriage is ending specifically because he prioritized work over family. How can we be certain he won't repeat these patterns with Luna?" Marcus felt his heart sink. Every fear he'd had about this moment was playing out in open court. "Furthermore," the attorney continued, "Mr. Oliveira's recent arrest record shows that under his care, Luna was involved in criminal activity, however well-intentioned." Judge Reyes looked at Marcus. "Mr. Oliveira, how do you respond to these concerns?" Marcus stood, his hands shaking slightly. This was the moment everything would be decided, not by his wealth or his connections, but by his words and the truth of who he had become. Your Honor, 3 months ago, 3 months. Everything that attorney said would have been true. I was a man who measured success by profit margins and stock prices. I missed my daughter Sarah's most important moments. I let my marriage crumble because I thought providing money was the same as providing love. He paused, looking at Luna, who was watching him with complete trust, despite everything hanging in the balance. But Luna changed me in ways I didn't think were possible. When she was arrested for helping homeless children, I didn't see a problem to be managed. I saw a daughter with a heart so big she was willing to risk everything to help others. Instead of punishing her, we worked together to find real solutions. We've started a foundation that has already helped dozens of children find permanent homes. Marcus's voice grew stronger. Your Honor, I can't change my past mistakes, but I can promise you this. Luna will never wonder if she's loved, never question if she's a priority. Never doubt that she comes first in my life. She's taught me that real success isn't what you accumulate, it's what you give away. Judge Reyes was quiet for a long moment, studying the papers before her. Then she looked directly at Luna. Luna, you've heard everything that's been said today. This is your life we're deciding. What do you want? Luna stood up, small but steady. I want to stay with Marcus, Your Honor. He's not perfect, but he chooses me every day. He cancelled billion-dollar meetings to take me to therapy. He sold his penthouse and moved me into his family home. When I messed up, he didn't abandon me. He helped me fix it. Her voice grew stronger. I've been alone for 4 years, and now I'm not. I want to keep my father. Judge Reyes smiled, the first time her stern expression had softened all day. In that case, this court grants the petition for adoption. Luna Rodriguez, you are now officially Luna Rodriguez Oliveira, and Mr. Oliveira, you are legally and permanently her father. The courtroom erupted in quiet celebration. Rebecca wiped away tears, Sarah whooped softly, and Dr. Henderson beamed with pride. But Marcus only had eyes for Luna, who launched herself into his arms with the abandon of a child who finally, truly believed she was home. Thank you, she whispered against his shoulder. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you, Marcus whispered back, for saving my life. 6 months later, the Luna Rodriguez Oliveira Foundation had helped over 200 homeless youth find permanent housing and support. The converted warehouse had become a thriving community center. Tommy was excelling in his new school and had moved in with a loving foster family who planned to adopt him. Marcus had learned to leave the office at 5 p.m. every day, and his relationship with Sarah had never been stronger. As for Rebecca, the divorce papers remained unsigned on Marcus's desk. Some transformations they were both discovering created space for forgiveness and new beginnings. On Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year after that fateful night when his car broke down, Marcus stood in the garage watching Luna teach Tommy how to rebuild an engine. Snow was falling outside, but inside was nothing but warmth, laughter, and the sound of a family that had been broken and rebuilt into something even stronger. Luna looked up at him and grinned, motor oil on her cheek and pure joy in her green eyes. Ready for Christmas dinner, Dad? Ready, Marcus said, his heart full to overflowing. I'm finally ready for everything. The little girl who had fixed his car had fixed his life, and in return he had given her the one thing she had always deserved, a father who would never, ever let her go.